Hi, George McGovern Middle School. Thank you for taking the time to check out this video. This is really important to our school. We obviously want to help our students challenge themselves to become stronger readers. This is a great tool that I'm going to show you that lets them, number one, know what their RI is. Number two, think about how they need to, what their next RI should look like and what that goal should be. And then number three, consider some specific strategies, some specific action steps to move forward and to grow that RI. Our hope is by having students engage in this activity and do it throughout their time here at George McGovern Middle School, that what they will connect is that their efforts and their specific strategies and their specific actions can be tied to the results they get and the growth they have as a student. We also hope that it's a great tool to inform parents of students' progress, and we also hope that it's a great tool to allow us as teachers the opportunity to coach students for growth, to give them input and to give them guidance and to encourage them along the way of their journey as they are growing as a reader. So the document I've shared with you is called Reading Growth Goals, and what we want is we want students to use this to keep track of their RI and record it. And what it's going to do is it's going to give them a graph so they can see their trend. Now with students, you might need to let them know that don't get worried too much about whether it went up or down from the last one, but to worry more about the trend, because that RI can be off a little bit here or there. But the main thing is, as they go through George McGovern Middle School, we want to see that trend going upward and to the right as they're going through George McGovern Middle School. So let me give you an example. I'm a sixth grader. I come in. I'm going to make up some scores here just so you can see what it looks like. I come in as a sixth grader and I have 560 RI, so I would record that my first quarter. The next quarter I take the RI. I believe it or not, I have a 645. You can't even believe how much I grow every year. Obviously, right away, that graph looks a little goofy, but you'll see it trend out as we have more data points. The next quarter, I didn't have quite as much growth, but I did grow to not 560. I did grow to 680. And so we're starting to see that trend. Then maybe I went to 754. Then and what we're doing is we're seeing, the main thing we want them to see is the visual of it's going up. Now, maybe I do go down at sometimes. I go down to a 745. Again, the general trend is up, so we want to encourage students with that. We also then, from their RI, we want them to look at that and understand where they're at. We want to be very careful about this because we don't want to use this to pigeonhole a kid or to label a student, but we want to help them realize where their starting point is and our firm belief that they can move this RI, that they can do workouts and exercises, and when they do those workouts and when they do those exercises, that their brain grows, their brain gets better at reading. So we want to know where we're at, a baseline testing. So we want to come down here, and I'm a sixth grader, and I see that right now I'm below basic, and we want to help them say what we want to do now is see you move to the top end of below basic, or we want to see you move into basic. To help them do that, after every RI, we should have them go to this next page. So if they were a sixth grader, they would mark in yellow where they are right now. I'm below basic, and they would mark in green where they want to be. Now, this could definitely be, you could do this, say, where do you want to be by the time you leave George McGovern Middle School, or where do you just want to be next time? So, if you want to be basic next time, you'd mark green. But when they do that, we also want to have them have realistic goals, because we want them to see that their work is paying off and that their efforts are making gains, and we don't want them to be deflated that they didn't go from below basic to advanced or even below basic to basic. So we want to speak into that a little bit more. How we want to speak into that first is we want to share with them that we really believe that the only way to get there is by doing things, by actually committing to routines, actually practicing. Just like if we're playing basketball or we're a gymnast or we're playing an instrument, whatever it is, we want to commit to some sort of routine and some sort of practice and some sort of strategy if we really believe that we can grow and we can move forward. So here is where we ask them to commit to 3 strategies to help grow their RI. Maybe they commit to 2, maybe they commit to 1. This is just an opportunity, but if they can find 3 strategies, it might simply be one of the things I will work on is using my 15 minutes of reading time during directed studies to read. I will also try to maybe read a book for 10 minutes every night at my house. Finally, I plan to read at least one book that is just a little above my current Lexile so that it challenges me. Those could all be strategies that they use and commit to. That way, when you record their next RI score, you can ask them, how well did you do on these strategies? If they didn't do well on those strategies and they didn't get the results they wanted, maybe they'll connect like, wow, when I don't put in the effort, when I don't do something, my growth doesn't go so well. On the other hand, if they did commit to those strategies, hopefully we'll see growth and they can see and connect, wow, when I put in the effort, when I commit to certain actions, the result is I grow as a reader and I'm moving forward. And then lastly, on this page down here, again, just making sure they really understand their Lexile and where they're going. We want them to put what their current Lexile is. We want them to tell us what they want to increase their Lexile by. Now, it's important when they determine what they want to increase their Lexile by. You think if this is just a quarter's worth of time, that we want that to be very realistic. We want it to be challenging and difficult, and it's okay if a student doesn't quite get there, but we want it to be realistic. So we don't want a student to think that they're going to grow by 1,000 and then they're disappointed when they grow by 15. And I'm sure you understand that. So we want to help the students identify that score a little bit. And then, of course, if their current Lexile is 2 and they want to grow by 3, then they want their next Lexile to be 5. So I'm sure you have the question I would have if I was listening to this. How do we help our student determine the correct or a realistic goal from one RI to the next RI? Wonderful. Great question. If you go to the RI scores, your ELA teachers and your team leaders for sure have this. I can sure get you permission if you would like to see this. One thing we ask is be very careful when you're working with this document. If you notice anything go wrong, let me know right away, because this is how we collect all of our data for reading. But that's for a different day. So here's how you can figure out what their expected growth is. If you go over to column J, it's their expected growth for the year. You do want to do a little thinking here as a teacher, because this isn't just a 100% exact science. It's mainly a science, but there's some art to it also. You might say, well, how are these determined? What we did is we looked at their last 7th grade RI and we said, okay, they come in. What we want them to do is be stronger at the end of 8th grade than they were at the end of 7th grade. So we looked at their 7th grade last RI and we said, if they left 7th grade with this, how much do they need to grow when they begin 8th grade to meet their goal? And so this student had an 1130 RI at the end of 7th grade. And what we want to see them is by the end of 8th grade to grow that RI 35 points. Now, I want to show you something where sometimes that doesn't work out just perfect. For instance, with this student, you might notice that they actually grew over the summer. So much for summer slump, right? This one must have been reading and doing some things, and but they had a 986 at the end of 7th grade and a 1040. They've already met their reading goal for 8th grade if you base it off the 7th grade. So you may have to look at this score and say, you know what, you were supposed to grow by 50 this year. So we still want you to do that. And then you would just take this number and divide it into 4 chunks, and they should grow approximately that every quarter to be on track. Where did you get these scores, Richie? That's a great question. Scholastic actually provides us some guidance, and this is the wrong thing I want to show you, on those growth goals. I'm going to attach this so you have it. That way, obviously, you as a teacher can meet with the students and figure out exactly, help them set those goals. But basically, this, you just look over here to the left-hand column. It says what their fall Lexile is. I guess we probably did that wrong by doing their spring, but if you look at their fall Lexile, their first quarter one, what you do from there is, let's say they got a Lexile of 837. I'd come down here between 800 and 890. falls in that range, I would move over to the right, and let's say they were an 8th grader. We would expect them to grow by 58 Lexile this year. So that's how you can help them create a realistic goal and know something that's challenging, something that makes some sense, that you can coach into as they're growing as a reader. I'd like to just provide kind of some other input into that. I think many of our teachers have really caught on, and for those of you doing it, excellent, and really appreciate it that we want to use that directed study time to help our students grow as readers, and we want to use that directed study time to help our students grow as mathematicians. Just a piece of encouragement, I would love if we could really make that directed studies reading time and that math time directed, meaning that that is an advisory time, a time for us as educators to be with our students, to sit with them, to conference with them, to make sure that they are keeping their eye on the goal, that they understand where their Lexile is, that they remember the strategies that they've committed to, that we're checking in to see if they need any help, that we're checking to make sure they have a book, number one, that they enjoy, number two, that's appropriate for their Lexile, maybe a little above where they're at, but not so challenging that they feel defeated and it's not helping them practice and grow and learn as a reader. So it would be great if you use this reading growth goal sheet to conference with students every 1 to 2 weeks. In my mind, and obviously this is just a suggestion of the way you could do it, it would just to pick 3 to 4 students every directed studies to call them up, have them pull up this sheet, look at it with them, go through it with them, ask them how they're doing on the strategies they've committed to, give them some encouragement, ask them if they have a book that they enjoy, have them show you the book. If they don't have a book, encourage them to get a book. This might also provide some accountability of making sure our students do have a book with them and that they're engaged in that book and that they're ready for that time. But we could really put that directed in the studies. Instead of just having them read for that time, we would also coach and provide some input and some encouragement during that time. So if you're able to do that, that would be greatly appreciated. The last thing I want to show you, and I'll go through these very quickly, is some things that Nicole Schillmuller has given us. She uses these with her students. I will attach these to the email. There's some resources that you could use if you are doing that conferencing time, or even during your regular core time if you're noticing students who are struggling. Up here are some fix-up strategies from reading, some ways students can engage the text and engage reading to maybe work through some of their struggles. These are good strategies for students to develop. The more they use them, they'll do them more with automaticity. The other thing here is if you're going to the library or if you're conferencing with students in your directed studies, helping them find a book, that's appropriate for them. Here is a strategy for doing that. They just use this hand and they go through these things, and it's a great way to identify a book and get a book that is useful for them. The last thing here is if you want a little tool that you can use, we would love for you to show this actual graph and spreadsheet to parents during conferences, but maybe you also want to send something home with them. This is a great little quarter sheet that you can put the student's name. You can keep adding their RI by each quarter to it to let parents know where their student stands. Down here you could circle where they're currently stand as a reader, and maybe also circle where you hope and you realistically think they need to be. You could even write next to it about what their goal is going to be, that this student wants to increase by 8 RI over the next quarter, and they want to increase by 32 RI over the year. I hope these resources are useful. I do want to say with the reading growth sheet, that is one thing we would expect every student to be engaged in. If you're not sure how to do that, or if you're not sure if your students are currently do that, check with people on your team, because this may already be in process. But we want to engage every student in that every quarter, and even more so, it'd be great if we're looking at it every couple of weeks, maybe every week with some conferencing and coaching. Thanks for your time, and thanks for all your dedication to help our students learn to be great readers.